Yes, guys, I'm Si. Welcome to the Foot Ace Podcast Nation. Welcome to the Footy News Weekly as we break down as much of the news and the stories and the rumours and the innuendo as we can in about 45 minutes to an hour. And normally it's just me, innit? But tonight I'm delighted, thrilled no less, to be joined by none other than a legend in his own lunchtime. Is Mr. Robert Boyle and his smiley face. How are you, my friend?
I'm wicked, mate. How are you?
I'm good, mate. I've been in the studio this afternoon filming with some peeps, and
Nice.
it's been a lot of fun. So I've got like a proper positive outlook on stuff tonight, whereas last night I wanted the world to swallow me up into a big dark hole, and such is life, mate, isn't it? It's the way it changed, isn't it? No, I don't know, mate. It was just a bad day. I've had a bad couple of weeks, in fairness. I've been struggling away, but it is what it is, mate. It's part of life. One good day followed by 3 bad ones, and then you have a week of good, and just gotta go with the ups and downs, as it were. But yeah, mate,
you have me here now, back to cheer your shitty life up now.
Well, that's it, mate. I was so depressed that I thought things can't get any worse. So I thought, fuck it, let's burn the channel to the ground and bring Rob back on.
Yeah, true story.
It's all good, mate. No, as I was just saying to you, mate, we've got loads of like really interesting and quality football content coming over the next couple of weeks as we build up for the season. Got a Premier League preview with a former footballer. We got Championship Cardiff City preview. We got a special guest on the Football News Weekly next week as well from another podcast. So looking forward to talking football and ramping up for the season. Reese says, "Evening, gents. Who is that good-looking stranger on the podcast tonight?" Si. Well, if you could read, it literally says underneath his face. Come on, Reese. Come on, mate. Reese also put a really nice message in there, but I appreciate that, mate. Thank you. Where do we start, mate? I tell you where we won't start because I haven't watched 1 second of it.
Women's World Cup. I knew you were going to say that.
So if you've watched it, you give me a rundown in 60 seconds of what's happened so far in the Women's World Cup.
So I have not watched it. However, I've learned 3 things, I think. Nigeria women got their money cut before coming because of the government or something like that. So they're not getting paid diddly squat. And there's like a big old hoo-ha about it because did they win or something, potentially? There is Reece James's sister, who is apparently quality.
She scored, I think, today, didn't she?
Yeah, and there's a good England women's player. Forgive me, I don't know her name. And she's took a bad injury, apparently. So that's as much as my knowledge goes.
Kira Walsh got injured. Lauren James scored a sensational winner.
See? That's all we need to know.
But there was one of the Colombian girls, teenage girl, actually, 17, 18. She had a good game. And then when she was training a couple of days later, she collapsed. And I'm not sure what the latest update is on her. But won very well, so hopefully, best wishes to her.
Yeah.
I hope she's all right. Look, and I say, I know some people will moan and say, well, it's football and blah, blah, blah. I did try and watch a couple of the first couple of games of the tournament, and I just got to be honest, right? How can I put this without getting my whole shit cancelled? I watched a couple of bits at the start, and I just was like, this isn't my thing. It's just not good. It wasn't good. I know it gets better, and the better teams out there. You can see the ones which are professional players, and you can see the ones who are not. Now, obviously, in men's football, the only thing you really get like that is the FA Cup, and it's kind of broken down. So people who follow like Championship clubs or Premier League clubs, unless you're a real football aficionado, you might watch the early round of the FA Cup. So then you only see like the odd side when they come up against the Championship and Premier League teams and stuff like that. But like, there's always a big thing in there about the disparity in pay. So, of course, for the World Cup, there was a big thing. You had that what's that American girl's name who's always banging on about money?
Rapinoe, is it, or whatever her name is?
Yeah. So she was saying like, oh, the difference in the winners of the Women's World Cup only get, I think, like 7 million or whatever it is. The winners of the Men's World Cup get like 40 or whatever it is. It's a massive difference. But it's like you get in anything, like any form of entertainment, sport, TV, content creation, music, whatever it is, your pay and what you get from prize money and what you get paid for your shit is based upon what you bring in, in terms of viewers, in terms of sponsors, like everything. It's so like
just to add to that,
the Women's World Cup as it is now, right? Women's football is growing massively, and there's it's got genuine people who are watching it and everything, and they love it. Great, I'm happy, I'm good. I want that to happen, but you cannot expect the Women's World Cup prize money to be the same as the men's now, because you're talking men's football has developed and been where it is, building to where it is today for the last fucking 100 years, when plus they're just at different points in their journeys and their growth. And unfortunately, like, do you ever see the clip of, I'm going to go off on 1 minute, sorry. Do you ever see the clip of Venus Williams, right, talking about women's and men's tennis is like, it's literally two different sports. And then this guy who was interviewing her, was obviously trying to say all the right things. And he was saying to her, yeah, but you could beat some men, couldn't you? And she was like, no. Like, if I played Andy Murray when he was at his peak, like she said, he would beat me 6-love. I probably wouldn't even score a point. And then she was warming up for a match or a tournament with the world number 200. Is like a guy who's no one's ever heard of, but she was warming up with him. So they played a game and he beat her 6-0, 6-1. Like the world 200 against what is easily like the greatest female tennis player to ever grace the game. Like, and I feel like women's football is almost in like a similar boat. Like it's a different sport. Like you see these videos of like the American international team playing against a bunch of under 16 boys, and the kids run rings around them because they're the under 16s, they're big boys, they're strong, they're fit, they're not quite adults, but like it's just different. Men and women are different, all right? So let's grow the women's game on the merits that it brings, and that it's built itself and is keeping building. And the very good stuff in women's football is very, very good. But it's not all good. So let's not pretend that it is. Because some of these teams in this World Cup are not very good. And back in the day, when I was a kid, in the men's World Cup, you'd have 2, 3, maybe teams, 4 teams who were like that, who were just shockingly bad, but they've qualified from their area. But they weren't professionals, your San Marinos and people like this. Like, I know San Marino weren't in the World Cup, but I use them as an example in terms of like these teams who maybe not all their teams are professional. They all kind of play in their own country rather than being spread around Europe and the world, playing at the top clubs. And they would get spanked. I remember, I think it was in the 70s, like Zaire got beaten like 8-0 or something by Brazil, So that's where women's football is now, is where men's football was back then in terms of the World Cup, I mean. So there's teams in there which aren't ever going to be able to compete with the teams who are full-time professionals. It's just a fact of life, you know?
Of course it is.
I don't know why people get
It's
so
apples and
upset.
oranges. They shouldn't be compared. They shouldn't be compared. Like, they're two different entities at the end of the day. Like, power to whoever and fair play to whoever. Like, go, grow it, do what you got to do, increase the PR, do whatever it takes to take it to the next level. But I think you're better on losing by saying, they want equal pay and things like that. It's two different entities. It's got to be treated two different things. They may use the same ball, but it's two different things. They can't go head to head like that. It just doesn't work. It won't work.
Yeah, it's just different. It's just different, mate, isn't it? And it's like, whilst you keep trying to force the equality part of that and the comparisons, I think it holds it back more than it moves it on. Like, I think all the progress that's been made in recent times, that progress has been made where they've built their own thing on their own merits and their own quality. So, like, you see all these clubs, and I'm not saying like that the men's clubs shouldn't help the clubs at club level. They should. Like, Man United's women team should be a part of Man United and Liverpool and all the rest of it. Like, they should just be one of their teams. Like, like your under 23s and your youth team and whatever else. Your under 10s, and you should have a women's team. And long term, you should also have women's. I'm talking when it's built up enough. You should have women's academies and women's under 7s, under 8s at all those clubs. That's what you want to be aiming for. But you can't run before you can walk, mate, I think is the saying.
Yep.
And sometimes I feel a bit like people, and do you know what? It's not necessarily always the people who are involved within the day-to-day running of the football. It's quite often you have people like that American lady, I forget her name, who's kind of finished playing, and she's got a reputation. Like, she's like almost like the spokesperson for that side of things. And I think that also helps her with her profile, if you like, or her brand, or whatever you want to call it. Whereas the people within the game and who are still playing women's football and are building it day to day, they're not saying these types of things. So I don't know how I got there, mate, but I had a bit of a moan there about the Women's World Cup, but there we go. Look, I'm sure, like, for people who follow women's football, and particularly, England fans and Australia fans and the people who are following those teams, I'm sure it's great, and I'm happy for you. But that's just like, when the Cricket World Cup comes round, I will really enjoy it, and I will support England because it's the England and Wales Cricket Board, just to make that clear. And but I'll enjoy it, and I'll talk about it. I might even do some podcasts about it, whatever. But like, some people who watch my football podcasts, they won't be interested in the cricket podcasts because they don't like cricket, and they don't see, like, do you know what I mean? Like, not everyone likes everything, and as it stands at the moment, I do find it a little bit difficult the Women's World Cup. I can watch Women's Premier League, Super League, whatever it's called. Like, I enjoy it. And I enjoy speaking to female footballers. One of my favourite interviews and podcasts I've done are the ones I've done with Charlotte Potts, who plays for Newcastle, who just got promoted. Like, it's not like I'm anti-women's football. I haven't got the same interest in it that I do in men's football. Whereas if Andy Campbell was sat here with us, he'd be able to name all the players because he's bang into it. He's bang involved. His daughters play. He follows it. It's just, some people enjoy it, some people don't. Some people are deep in it, some people are not. It doesn't mean I hate it. Doesn't mean I hate women. It's just a thing.
No, I think it doesn't help with which is what it is, the time difference, the World Cup as well. I think, correct if I'm wrong, but I think most of the games are either very late at night or very early in the morning, I think, as well. So, it's...
That's no different to the men's, mate. The men's ones are,
No, that's true. But I think
you'd watch
as a neutral supporter,
observer,
I would be more inclined to take a look if it was, especially
Yeah.
if there's no football on 6-7 o'clock on an evening. I may dabble in it and then have a little look and see what the crack is. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But for something I'm not an avid supporter of, I'm not going to get up at stupid o'clock in the morning when I'm off to watch a couple of teams who I know I don't follow at all. Do you know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does, mate. It does. Let's have a look at some of these comments. Reese says the little things would make a difference to women's football. Make the goals slightly smaller for a start. So many goals are scored, but just by hitting it high into the net, and the keepers are too short to reach. I think that's a fair point. Like, I know when my older boy is a goalkeeper, and when he went up into the full size goals at like under 12s, it was impossible for him, and he's a big boy because he couldn't reach the crossbar. Like, so it was just anything high was a free goal. Like,
well, he looked like John Pickford, did he?
Yeah, and it's just but it's like that. So when he used to train with Cardiff and Taffswell and stuff, they used to work in the 3/4 goals. So it's like 3/4 of the full size. It was the perfect size for him. Perfect size for teenagers. So, you know, there is ways to do these things. And there goes. I show my ignorance. I said Megan Rapinoe was an ex-player. Reece said she's still playing, mate. This is her last tournament. Although ex-teammates have accused her of bullying them into kneeling and other issues. Yeah, I don't think she's particularly popular. From what I can gather, I don't think she's very popular. Gaz says, oi, oi. And then he says, move on from the Women's World Cup is shite. All right, then.
All right, and Gaz, how much would you pay for Harry Maguire?
How much would you pay for Harry Maguire, Gaz, eh? Fucking hell.
So, Scott McTominay.
So for those of you who don't know, Manchester United today turned down £20 million for Harry Maguire, and so basically rumoured this week, West Ham supposedly bid 40 million for Scott McTominay plus 5 million add-ons, and then they bid 20 million for Harry Maguire, although I got told earlier that it was 15 plus 5. So people know, I think Harry Maguire is comical. I think he's an arrogant prick, and I'm not a fan of Harry Maguire whatsoever. I don't like the way he comes across in interviews. I don't like the way he conducts himself, and I don't think he's particularly great at football. But saying all those three things first, so everyone knows that I'm not a fan, I think £20 million is a bit of an insult, and here's why. He's an England international. If it wasn't for Harry Kane, or if Harry Kane was out, he'd probably be England captain. The only reason that he had a good season under whoever brought him in, maybe Solskjaer, maybe the manager before. He had one good season for United, and in that season, they were not trying to play out from the back. So under Solskjaer, they played very direct, get the ball up, play to the wings, sort of very old school United. Whereas now they play a very high line. They want to play out from the back. They want their centre backs, their goalkeepers to be able to receive the ball, encourage the press, and then pass through the midfield and progress it that way. That's not Harry Maguire's game. Yes, he can dribble the ball out of defence, and he can be quite good at that. He's not a terrible footballer for his stature, but he is still an England he's still an England international. And if he goes to the right team who play the right way, I guarantee you a year from now, we will be talking about what a good season he's had. He's not a shit footballer. He's not like a footballer. He's not like stealing a living. He's not someone who should really be playing in the Championship. He is a top 10 Premier League defender, but not playing the tactics that Erik ten Hag wants to play. Just like you wouldn't put him in Man City and get him to play the John Stones role. Just like you wouldn't play him for Mikel Arteta for Arsenal and play that high line. If he goes to West Ham, he's going to play under David Moyes, who bloody loves him. David Moyes, who's a very kind of practical manager in terms of how he plays football. His defence is very deep. They defend from their own goal line. Lots of headers and crosses coming in, defending them away. And they'd be looking for either him to hit a direct ball to the striker or in the channels or to the wingers, or to dribble it out himself and then play that pass, which he is perfectly capable of doing to a very high standard. He's also decent at defending corners, set pieces, stuff like that. Would you want him one-on-one versus Mbappe to save your life? No, you wouldn't. But that's not his game, which is why that's why he's lost the captaincy, because he didn't play for United last year very much. And they know he's not going to play for them very much now. He's like 5th choice centre-back behind Luke Shaw, at least. If they bring Johnny Evans in, he's actually 6th choice. So he might not even get on the bench for United. So to me, I think 25 to 30 is fair. But I also wouldn't be surprised if somebody paid 35 to 40 for him, because that's still I'm not saying that that's what he's worth, but I wouldn't. If you told me that, who could I think of? Not West Ham. If you told me that, who's down the bottom of the Premier League? I can't think of any Premier League teams at the moment.
Bournemouth, Luton, Brighton. No, Brighton.
Right, there. If you told me, right, that Luton had come in with £35 million bid, using their promotion money for Harry Maguire, and United had accepted, I would not think, oh my God, Luton are being done there. I would think he'll do a good job for Luton. But I think that Burnley as well. I think 35 to 40 is probably a bit much for Harry Maguire. I think the right fair price for everyone, I think 25 million plus 5 million add-ons is about right. I think 20 is too low, and I think 30 outright is probably a bit high. I don't know, 25, 30 I think is fair, because he's an England international, mate. He's a good defender. He's just not a defender who should be playing on the halfway line, trying to play through the midfield. He's someone who should be defending his own box, heading balls away. What do you think?
So West Ham's defence will be slabhead and a cat kicker.
Well, it's interesting, mate, isn't it? Here's a question for you. Oh, by the way, Gaz answered your question. He said 35 million.
For one, McTominay or for Maguire?
Maguire. I haven't asked about McTominay yet.
Gaz, one thing I want to know as well is, with him, is Antonio going to Saudi? So I've heard that's pretty much a done deal as well. I'm curious whether he's going out there.
Good for it. Do you know what, mate? In his case, and in quite a few of their cases, when I look at some of these players, but in his case particularly, good for him. Because Mikel Antonio, he missed out on his big move a couple of years back when he was flying. He never really got into the England team, bar a couple of caps. And then he got injuries, and then he's never quite got that that big move or that big break. But he's always done well for West Ham. He's carried that West Ham team sometimes.
Yeah, I do like Antonio.
And I think if he can go and make a big bag now as he winds down his career, then good for him. Reese says 20 million is a generous offer, to be fair. West Ham needed to have made an offer before selling Declan Rice. United know West Ham have got money. And the thing is, United need money. So from what I can gather, United have got enough money to sign Højlund. To sign Amrabat, they need to sell either McTominay or Fred. And then if they want to go back in for Harry Kane, they need to sell the other one, and McTominay and Fred, Maguire and Henderson, which will give them about between 70 and 100 million, depending on how much they sell him for. Like Dean Henderson supposedly is going to Forest for 25 million plus 5 million add-ons, which is fucking mental.
How much, sorry? 25?
25 plus 5 add-ons. Which, look, if you count his age, he's proven Premier League goalkeeper. Again, I don't think it's outrageous when you break it down. And do you know what I think has broken the transfer window this year? it's Declan Rice going for 100 million. Because I'll say it again, Declan Rice is not a £100 million player, but Brighton have just turned down 80 million from Chelsea, and rightly so, mate. Because if I'm looking at who would I rather have in my side, I'd rather have Caicedo. I think Caicedo is a better defensive midfielder. I think Caicedo can also play as a number 8 and be a bit more attacking. I dare say he could play as a number 10 if you really asked him, but he could certainly play as an 8 or a 6. He could play right back. He's young. He's fast.
He hasn't asked to leave yet, do he? He's not like forcing his way out.
Well,
yet.
I think it's a bit naughty on one side of it. He's done a Daniel Levy by the sounds of it, the Brighton owner, in that he was going to go to Arsenal, Caicedo, for 70 million in January, and he didn't. And then he signed a new contract. I had heard back in January that was with the agreement that they would sell him in the summer and let him go. Now, in fairness to them, they haven't said he can't go. They've just said
just priced him out.
He's not going for 80 million. But mate, if Declan Rice is worth 100 million, then Caicedo is worth at least 90 for me. And to be honest with you, I think they should be the same price in terms of valuing what they bring. My personal opinion is I'd actually put Caicedo slightly higher. But my personal opinion is probably Caicedo slightly higher, but I don't think he's going to go for higher. But if Declan Rice is 105 million, then I think Brighton should rightly ask for 90 million for Caicedo. And I think Manchester United should rightly ask for 40 for Scott McTominay. He's a Scotland international. He's an experienced Premier League player, but he's also still young. He can play centre back. He can play holding midfield. He can play central midfield. He can play number 10. Dare say he could play fullback as well. So,
sorry, kids are calling me.
That's all right, mate. I was just explaining to the people that if Declan Rice is worth 105, Caicedo's worth at least, I think, the same, but let's say 90. And I think Scott McTominay is worth at least 40, 45. Scott McTominay can play. He's a Scotland international. He's young. He's quick. He's strong. He can play holding midfield. He plays centre back. He can play normal, like box to box central midfield, and he can play number 10. So you tell me that is not a 20, whatever he is, 24, 25-year-old who can play a range of positions and is an international footballer who's also very experienced in the Premier League. You're telling me that he's not worth 40 million? Come on.
Yeah.
Caicedo as well, international, who can play a range of positions, is one of the most highly rated midfielders in Europe. But I
think I've seen him play centre half for Scotland as well, in fairness to him. I'm sure he's done centre half.
Yeah, McTominay's played centre half for Scotland and Man United. He's also played number 10. Yeah, I think at the moment, he's on a run for Scotland of like 5 goals in 5 games or something like that. playing in the number 10. I don't think 40 million's outrageous for him. I got to be honest.
I think you're right though about the Rice situation, though, mate. I think it's fucked the market this summer. Premier League's always inflated anyway, isn't it? Especially for English.
Yeah.
But
yeah, it's that English tax, like Reece says there. Rice was worth 105 million because of the English tax. If he wasn't English, 80 million would have been accepted a while back. Yeah, I agree with that. But if I was, say I was United or I was Arsenal or Chelsea, whoever, and I'm looking for a midfielder who's going to improve my team, and my choices are Caicedo or Declan Rice, I would pick Caicedo every day of the week. And I don't understand why I feel like people are being blinded by the
English media hype.
Declan Rice loving, mate. Yes, West Ham won the conference. Great. They only just stayed up. And as we saw against United the other day, playing in a side which plays a high line and he's playing way, way further up the pitch is very, very different to sitting in front of a defence in your own half and playing 2-yard balls with the occasional carry through a couple of strikers. It's just different, mate. So here's something which will blow your mind on this conversation, right? So, how much do you think Scott McTominay's worth? So I've given you all the information. He's 24, 25, Scotland international, experienced Premier League player, can slot into multiple positions, athlete. How much do you think would be fair valuation in today's market?
That's two different questions, then, really, isn't it? Because what I think,
but we're going in this transfer window. What's a fair price for him?
I would say 25 to 30.
25 to 30, okay. What would have been a fair price for Declan Rice? England international, defensive midfielder, West Ham what would have been a fair
60,
valuation?
70 for me.
60 or 70. Caicedo, international, blah blah blah.
Yeah, I'd put him on par. I'd still say about 60, 70.
Okay. What about Fred?
15, 20.
Right.
25 at the push, maybe. Excuse me, he's not awful, let's be honest.
Ready for me to blow your mind now?
Do it. Blow my tiny little mind, mate.
Fred, right, is a Brazilian international. First choice for Brazil.
Yeah.
Played over 30 games for Manchester United last year. Was actually quite impressive for Manchester United until he sort of he got frozen out a little bit towards the end of the year. The only thing I'd say against him is that he's 30 now, so like his age compared to the others is obviously a factor. He has made 139 appearances for Manchester United. Before that, he made 100 for Shakhtar and 53 for Internacional. In total, the different age groups for Brazil, like the 23s and Brazil, he's made just under 40 appearances. Can play holding midfield, number 10, can play wide, can play fullback. Very technically good. Why is he worth 15, but Scott McTominay is worth 35? Apart from the age. We'll take that out just for this conversation, this hypothetical. So you're telling me Fred is the same valuation, because you thought 20 million was about right for Harry Maguire? Was that what you said?
Yeah, I'd say 20, 25 max for Harry Maguire.
Do you think those two are the equivalent in terms of price? Like, you think they're about the same? This is where it gets messy, isn't it? Because of the Rice.
It does get a bit of Lionel Messi by it, doesn't it? Because it's a tricky one, mate. It is a tricky one. Look, at the end of the day, I couldn't tell you the last time I've watched my play, so I don't know how good these boys actually are on a match day. So
here's another one. Anthony Elanga, 20, just gone to Swedish international, just gone to Forest for 15 million. So is he worth the same? 15. So is he worth the same as Harry Maguire and Fred? 30-year-old who people...
that's it, isn't it? It speaks volumes, that is. I like what... Sorry to direct the questions elsewhere. I just seen 2 points. The Reece Majors I thought was good. The Mbappe turning down around £250 million offer to go to Saudi, really refused to meet PSG, let him go. And then a couple of points later, market's been messed up since Mbappe went to PSG. So he screwed the market off originally.
Yeah.
And he's trying to fix it himself at the same time.
Well, on the Mbappe thing, mate, right? There's the people at PSG believe that he has got an agreement to go to Madrid at the end of next year.
That's right,
because he's contracted till the end of next season, isn't he? And it's their own fault, because PSG, when he signed the new contract at the start of last season, they framed it, and the pictures say, I think it's 2025 or whatever the number was. But actually, he signed a 2-year deal with an option of a third. But the option, it wasn't PSG. It was the players. So what's happened is 1 year into his deal, his 2-year deal, he has written to them at the start of this summer, and he has said, he's made it formal, and he said, I will not be taking up the option of the 3rd year, which means at the end of next season, he is done. He is effectively saying, I'm going to see out my contract, and then I'm not going to take up the option of the 3rd year. So they're fucked because they have to sell him now, because they can't let him go for free in the summer. And also in September, like in 4 weeks or whatever it is, 6 weeks, PSG have to pay Mbappe an £80 million loyalty bonus. £80 million. So they've basically got to pay him to stay, or pay him, and then he's going to go for free. So no wonder he doesn't want to go, because he's going to be loaded, and then he's going to go to Madrid on a free and get paid even more. But I think what's going to happen, mate, is if he wait, because he won't talk to the Saudi league, will he? He said, I don't want to go there, because he knows he's got 80 million coming in September. So he doesn't need to really be like, oh, I need that money. I've got 80 million coming in a few weeks. What do I care? But I think what will happen is over the next week or two, the likes of your Uniteds, your Madrids, your Bayern Munichs, whoever, they will kind of get their transfer windows in order. And I think you're going to have clubs going back to PSG saying, we'll loan him for this year and we'll buy him next summer, or we'll buy him in January or whatever, and trying to do it that way. And it's going to be remarkable to watch, because I cannot for the life of me, because they can't sell him next summer because he's out of contract. So you can't have a loan with an agreement to buy him in the summer. You have to buy a loan fee. Yeah, there'll be a big loan fee, and then buy him in January. I suppose you could do that, but then he can speak to other clubs and sign pre-contracts in January. So let's use United as an example. Why would United loan him for a year, or loan him for this season, and then say, oh yeah, but we'll buy him for 100 million in January, when they could loan him for a year, but then they could speak to him in January and sign him on a free? So it makes no sense whatsoever why anyone would loan him for this season. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because all the Premier League clubs, all of the La Liga clubs, the Italian clubs, they can all speak to him in January legally and sign a pre-contract with him. So unless you want to blow like 100 and something million in January to get ahead of the curve, it defeats the object, though, of paying. Say you paid like whatever. What did they pay for Joe Felix? Like 80 million, wanted to loan, or 60 million or something to loan him, just to loan him.
Jesus Christ, like.
So, like, why would United say, or whoever, anyone, why would anyone pay PSG 50, 60, 70 million to loan him for a season with a thing to buy him in January or whatever? Because they can speak to him in January anyway. It just makes no sense whatsoever. Couple of comments. Rice was worth 100 million because I read that one. Sorry. And market's been fucked since Mbappe went to PSG. Before that, 5 million in the championship got you 20 goals. Chopra. Now 15 million needs to be spent just to get you a striker who will score 12 goals. Yeah, like you have to spend like 15, 20 million on like a young striker who may or may not be good enough from like a French league or whatever. And he goes on, it's a 10 to 15 million 10 years ago. Now probably looking at like 40 million these days, 30 million if they're transfer listed. Like McTominay. McTominay's not transfer listed. Fred is transfer listed. What they said about McTominay was, let me get this right. I think they said he's not up for sale, but if the right offer comes in, they will sell him. Yeah, he's basically up for sale, isn't he? Few things come into play. Length of contract left, players transfer listed or not, resale value, i.e. 30-year-olds, blah, blah, blah. And Reece says, isn't he also in charge of sporting decisions, like who they sign, who they play, formation, etc.? So PSG cannot even drop him from the starting 11. They have to keep playing him. So I heard that isn't true. The reason I say that is because I can't remember who it was. It was a French journalist was saying this week what could effectively happen is if if say only the Saudi league teams come in for him because they're the only ones who can afford his wages and his fee, and he refuses to speak to them because he doesn't want to go to the Saudi league. He only wants to go to one of the top teams or whatever. They can just drop him and not play him for the whole season. And then he's got a decision to make. Can he stay fit enough for a season without playing? And will Madrid still sign him on a free? Yeah, they probably will. I think the outcome will be he signs for Madrid this summer in some way, whether they give some players. And it's a shame. Do you know why it's a shame, mate? Because Neymar and Mbappe from the off the pitch are everything that's wrong with football. On the pitch, Mbappe is like a once-in-a-generation talent. But I think, unfortunately, he's earned so much money early on that I think he as a long-term like player, memory, legend, whatever you want to say, I think he's spoiled already.
Well, no,
I think
be fair, though.
he will no matter what he does, mate, I don't think he will ever be held in the same regard as a Messi, Ronaldo, Maradona, whoever. I don't think he'll ever be regarded the same because of the way he's acted in recent years off the pitch. In terms of, seems to be money. Maybe I'm wrong.
No, I don't dispute that, but I do give him a slight ounce of respect for the fact he's turned down a move to Saudi to chase the dollar.
Could you give him that when he's getting 80 million in 6 weeks?
No, but then how easy would it have been to just say, "Oh, fuck it, off we go to Saudi"?
Yeah, I mean, I thought he might end up going there for a year and then going to Madrid next year.
I mean, he still may happen in fairness, but
yeah, it's mental, mate, isn't it? Like, but then did you know the other thing which I almost feel sorry for PSG fans is PSG have made some really good signings this year. They've actually changed the way like they do their signings. You can see like a very big, it's not the Galactico kind of.
I didn't even know they've signed, mate. Enlighten me, Obi-Wan.
I'll tell you now. They signed that defensive midfielder who everyone was after. I can't remember his name. I'll give you a full list of their signings. Yeah, but I remember I was looking at them and I was like, ooh, flipping heck. But they're like proper, they're very clever signings, young players. So you got Lucas Hernandez from Bayern Munich. That's the most they've spent, which is 45 million euros.
He's a good defender.
Very, very good. They've got Hugo Ekitike, I think it's pronounced, for 28 million euro from Stade Reims. He's a young player. Very, very good. They signed Kang In Lee from Mallorca for 22 million euro.
He's class. Again, he is very, so very good.
Young player. Xavi Simons, phenomenal player. Really, he's going to be one of the. He's
gone PSG, have he?
Yeah, for 4 million euros.
What?
Exactly. I think they had a buyback clause. They had a buyback clause.
He was at Paris originally.
But so Xavi Simons, mate, if he lives up to his potential, could be one of the greats.
The dog's bollocks.
I haven't finished though, mate. You've also got, sorry, I forgot, Manuel Ugarte was the defensive midfielder from Sporting, who United, Chelsea, everyone was looking at. He was the most expensive for 60, sorry. And then you've got, listen to these, so you've got all those young players, like some of the most highly rated young players in Europe. So what was that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 quality young players that they've got on a free. Skriniar from Inter on a free transfer.
Good player.
30 years old he is, mate.
Great centre half.
Asensio from Madrid on a free transfer. Quality. And then they've signed a couple of free transfers from Benfica B, and they've brought someone up from the under-19s, which is a separate PSG team. And they've got rid of Messi. Looks like they've loaned out Xavi Simons to Leipzig, which I think is probably a good move for him. They've got rid of Icardi. They've got rid of Ramos. They've got rid of Bitshubai. Like, so they've got rid of the kind of, if they get rid of Neymar as well, I think, and if Mbappe goes as well, like they've got rid of that kind of ego-filled dressing room and replaced it with young, hungry, quality footballers. And that's what I mean. That's gone completely under the radar. And this is why, mate, right?
Yeah.
I think, say PSG sell or get rid of, in some fashion, Neymar and Mbappe, right? This summer, they get them out on loan or whatever. They just get them out. And then they sign Harry Kane, just for an example. You add Harry Kane to all those players, plus the players they already have, and I would not be surprised if they go and win the Champions League. Hello?
Say hello. Yeah, now you may as well say hello. I go back upstairs. Sorry.
Sorry, miss. Sorry.
So, did Ramos retire then? Or is he literally released?
He's got no club at the moment. I have an idea of where I think he might end up, but I'm not going
Newcastle.
to speculate. I actually think if United have got this weird thing with they're very limited because of their financial fair play. They've, like I said earlier, they got enough money to buy Højlund, but they've also going to be signing Amrabat. To sign him, they got to sell Fred, and then if they want to get Harry Kane, which they do, they have to sell Henderson, Maguire, McTominay, and obviously they sold what's his face as well, the guy to Forest. So they'd have the money for those players basically by selling those players and what they've got in their budget. But they need a replacement for Harry Maguire, and everyone assumes that it's going to be Johnny Evans. But I'm looking at Sergio Ramos and I'm thinking, he's going to want to play Premier League football. He's not good enough to start week in, week out.
No.
The way Ten Hag plays football, Sergio Ramos would be a pretty good backup for Martinez and Varane.
It's like a frigging time warp. I'm sure, like Ramos.
We nearly went there, didn't he?
15, 20 years he's been rumoured to have been joining United.
I think he nearly went there, didn't he? When he went to Paris.
That's right.
Paris offers big money. I would not be surprised. That's just purely my own speculation, by the way.
Yeah, do you know what?
I just think it makes a bit of sense.
To see him there.
I'd like to see him in the Premier League just for a bit. Like, I don't think he's going to start, but Varane picks up injuries, doesn't he? So they have to have like a backup. And Lindelof has proven that he's decent. But I think if you could add like a Sergio Ramos in there, I think Johnny Evans is a fine backup, like just to be that Harry Maguire. But Sergio Ramos is better, isn't he?
What you say about age? Look at Thiago Silva at Chelsea. I know they've not been very successful, but it's not.
Well, it's only last year.
It's not down to Chelsea for him, is it?
They won the Champions League the year before last.
He's bloody quality player, Thiago Silva.
Yeah, we got a guy coming on next Thursday on the Thursday show from the Shed End podcast, the Chelsea podcast. So I'm going to save the Chelsea talk for him.
Look forward to it.
I am going to be really enjoying that. So as always with these Football Weekly shows, we're kind of like flying all over the shop. I'm going to be wrapping it up in just a second, mate.
Yep,
Mahrez gone to Saudi. 30 million.
I'm at 30.
30. The most successful Premier League African player of all time.
I see Sadio Mane's followed him over there as well.
Where'd you stand on Mahrez, by the way? Like,
I like him, mate. I think he's massively underrated.
Flies under the radar a lot, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's not a big household name, is he? Do you know what I mean?
Like,
I think
when he was sorry to interrupt you, mate.
Okay,
I was going to say, when he was at Leicester, it was all about Vardy.
Yes.
And Kante. And then when he's at City, it's all about Haaland and Aguero and De Bruyne.
Yeah, absolutely right.
He does play a lot off the bench, though, for City, doesn't he? Like, how much has he contributed, really?
Oh, mate, he is a very, very good footballer. Like, he's got one of the best touches I think I've ever seen. Like, his first touch is outstanding.
Yeah, I'll take that.
I think you literally can look at a collage on YouTube of his best touches, and Yeah, he's a good footballer, but and fair play to him. You do you. For me, I still think he had a lot more to offer.
32, and he.
Yeah, is he 32 actually?
Yeah, like 32, I think is
Okay, fair.
a good age to go to. I think any player who's going to the Saudi league, if you're 32, I think you can justify it. You know, because I loved, by the way, just to finish off, I absolutely loved what what's his name, the one who went to United for on loan, Igalo. Did you see what he said about the players going to the Saudi league? Mate, just as we finish off, like the last thing to talk about is that
that's a good way to finish, mate.
Love what he said.
It's a good
he
one.
Said his quote was, "We play for money, not for passion in Saudi Arabia," and basically said, you know, he said Cristiano Ronaldo has earned more money than me than I'll ever make in my life playing football. Yet he still went to Saudi Arabia, and he said, you know, we play for money, not passion.
Igalo did the same in China as well, didn't he?
It's a job to them, mate, isn't it? Oh, mate, you imagine how much money Igalo was made from going to China, then going on loan to United, and then going to Saudi. He's made more money in that sort of 2-3 year period than he probably did his whole career before that.
No, exactly, mate. He wasn't even a bad player, like, in fairness to him.
He did all right at United, from what I can remember. Not amazing, but like he did all right.
No, he did better than Weghorst.
Yeah, Jesus Christ. Reese says, just the last question then. He says, City are probably the weakest they've been in years. Kyle Walker on his way to Bayern, Bernardo Silva to PSG. They seem to be slow strengthening. You say that, mate, but look at who they've brought in already this summer.
Who have they brought in? I didn't even know they signed.
They signed that I can never pronounce his name. That defender.
Was he actually signed now? The one from Leipzig?
I thought he had, but maybe he hasn't. All right. So they bought Kovacic, which I think is a good signing, good replacement, good backup, whatever you want to say. He might, like, knowing Pep, he'll probably already, you know, he's probably got a plan for him. Looks like Kyle Walker's going to go. Yeah. So it looks like they haven't actually signed. I thought they signed that Guavio, but they haven't. By the looks of it, he's not done.
Yeah, it probably will be.
Do you know, who'd be a good signing for someone in the Premier League is Cancelo, because there's no way he's staying at Man City after the way him and Pep so publicly fell out. So, there you go. Kovacic is decent, but compared to that 11, not a real improvement. I think you'd be surprised, mate. I think Kovacic is quality. There's a reason why he's always been linked with the biggest clubs in Europe. It's just, I think the last couple of clubs he's been at, he's been a bit misused. I would not be surprised to see him be played alongside Rodri or wherever he plays him, and he be an absolute, everyone be like, whoa.
To be fair, him and Modric for Croatia, that pair in the midfield, there's a reason why they've got.
They always do well in the tournaments, don't they?
Yeah, he's not the flashiest of players, but he's a good player.
This is what I'm finishing on. Reece says, to put Peter Whittingham in perspective, Super Kev said every single transfer window the club would accept an offer for him, and every single window Peter Whittingham would turn down all the money just to stay at Cardiff. Gotta love him. God, I love him. Right, guys, we'll be back. If you like boxing, check out the Boxing Podcast on Sunday, produced by Ace Podcast Nation over on Ben Doherty's channel, Sugar and Silk. Always a classic, and there's some big fights coming up soon over the next few weeks. Saturday, new episode of My Story, 12 p.m. on our YouTube channel. Please check that out and support it. Even if it's not someone you're not familiar with, or it's not a sport or a genre that you're normally interested in, I urge you to check it out. We had ex-footballer Gavin Gordon on there recently. We had boxers, rappers, bands, music. There's all sorts of different people on there. It's always a good episode. You always pick something from it. And that's 12 o'clock on Saturday. And then we'll be back members only Monday, Cardiff City Championship Wednesday, and then with Theo from the Shed End next Thursday before the return of Rodri Giggs. Got his face close to my heart, so I don't miss him. Got some new merch up on the site as well. Check that out. Nice one. Thank you very much to Rob for joining me this evening. We are out.
Peace and love.